I've been doing this for over 30 years now. And I think you guys have heard me say this before. I have never met a bearish farmer, ever, in my life, 30 years. And the reality is you can't be. Because if you weren't bearish, your product would be sold. Right? So you have to have a bullish outlook all the time. What I will say is this, it's news. It's not bad news, it's not good news, it's news. Do with it what you will. If I told you your house was going to burn in a week, that's terrible news, but it's actually good news if you emptied your house 4 days from now. So take it for what it's worth, it's news. I sat there patiently and I got to listen to a couple things and I kept my yap shut. And Flames first round picks, I kind of laughed and I went, Mark Jankowski. So the planting for soil temperature, I was always told that if you drop your pants and sit on the ground, if you can sit there for a minute, it was warm enough to seed. So I don't know how technologically sound that it was. Or maybe my dad was just playing a trick on me, I don't know. You guys have seen me present before. I always have this in my presentation. I thoroughly enjoy coming to meetings. I do. But if I knew what the market was going to do tomorrow, I would not be in Enchant today. So you can read that if you want. Really what it says is what I say can and will not hold up in court. Okay? So just, it's always on there. Okay, we'll start off with just where Western Canada is right now. You know, there used to be a time where there was a forward book. All the grain companies owned paper further out. The reality is now everybody is doing things hand to mouth, premiums available, sell grain, deliver grain, not really selling things in the market further out. And the market's telling you that is the correct thing to be doing today. But from that, we actually can figure out what the Western Canadian producer has sold. So we know right now on wheat in Western Canada, they're about 41% sold. We know on durum that you are about 52% sold based on production number. So there has been over 3 million tons of durum come to market already. Okay? So if a high school graduate from Theodore, Saskatchewan can figure that out, so can the guy in the Turkish government, maybe. Okay, on canola, canola is actually running about 45% sold. So deliveries have been very strong into the system for the first few months of the crop year. Okay, so we can figure those numbers out through the CGC, because every week the CGC reports the receipts. So we can figure out from that what has been sold. So really right now it's been pretty aggressively sold, which for the most part has been a pretty good thing. Okay. If there's a chart that's uglier than canola, it's been the Canadian dollar. Okay? So it just happened to be the day after the US election that the Canadian dollar reached its lowest point in a year. Now, from a cash perspective, on wheat basis and on canola, that's been a positive thing to hold up pricing. But from a sales standpoint, it's a bad thing because the US dollar has gained strength against every other commodity, every other currency. So it's taking more of the importer's currency to buy a product, so their bids drop. Okay? This is the global forecast here for the currencies around the world. And the Canadian dollar, it looks like we're going to get better in about 2028. Anybody know what 2028 also resembles?
Another election?
Yeah, when the US presidency changes. So these are the global currencies. Now, this actually came from TD Bank, so it gives us at least an indication of foreign exchange forecast. Our dollar is really not good right now. And I can tell you when the dollar is going to get worse. The dollar will get worse when I go to the States. okay? And I know you guys are laughing, but just a little anecdote. My wife went to Great Falls 3 weeks ago, and it was the lowest point ever in the past year. So she went. Now, I went and got her a couple $100 out of the bank. Cost me $280 for 200 US. So yeah, that is when the dollar is getting out worse. So just when you guys think, I'm actually going back to the States in January. So if you think the dollar is bad today, wait till January. Now, when I come back, it's coming back. So around January 22nd, 23rd, I expect the dollar to get stronger again. It's just the way it works. Okay, pulses. There is geopolitical events happening in every commodity. I don't know if it affects more commodities than pulses. Somebody around the world wakes up and puts on a tariff, we're in trouble. Somebody wakes up around the world and takes off a tariff, we're in good shape. Now, this is just for peas. So when I look at this chart, the green chart is China, the blue is India, and you can see in 23, 24 is when India came back. And I can tell you the date. I was speaking at a meeting in Raymore, and the pea price in Raymore was at 11 a.m. was $11 a bushel. So I phoned the producer, says, hey, peas are $11 a bushel. Okay, done, sold. Sold me some tons. At 12:30, I phoned him back, and I says, okay, peas are now $12 a bushel. And he goes, I sold you some at 11. Yeah, okay, I'll do some at 12. Okay, next morning, and it all started with rumblings, right? It started with rumblings in the pea market with India. The rumbling was that they were going to take off the tariff on Canadian peas. So the rumblings got the price jumped to 11. The rumblings became a little more confirmed in the next hour, boom, jumped up to 12. The following morning, there was business conducted, jumped to $13 a bushel. In a matter of about 14 hours, it jumped $3 a bushel. Oh, sorry, $2 a bushel. By the end of the day, it jumped to $14 a bushel. So politics in pulses is just a whole lot of fun. For a long time, it's been, for the first 20 years of my career, it's been supply demand that drove the market. For the past 5, it's been supply demand and politics. I don't know if there's anything more relevant in marketing than in pulses with geopolitical. Soon as India announced the removal of the tariff, we've been able to sell peas into India. Now, first, second, third world countries, no matter what the issue is, if there is a political issue in any country around the world, it is about the cost of living. So, in Canada, our biggest challenge right now is our cost of living. Crop costs a fortune. In India, in Egypt, all of these other countries around the world, it is their cost of living. So what happens is the governments try and control their costs by putting in tariffs to maintain their cost, maintain what their importing fees are. So when we look at India, they have been buying peas. That tariff expires December 31st. Now, they have not made an official announcement if they're going to extend the tariff or not. With them waiting this long, it looks like they're not going to extend it. They are going to put a tariff on Canadian peas again. So what happens with Canadian peas if it doesn't go into India? China puts up their hand. We will buy Canadian peas. Now, China is a very disciplined buyer, and if they're the only buyer of Canadian peas, do you think they bid more or less than what India is giving us? Yeah, they dropped their price. So, price of peas came off 25 cents a bushel yesterday. There is still a little bit of demand to be filled, but not a lot. There's still other countries that buy peas, don't get me wrong. But when you look at the chart, there's only 2 real colors that stick out on there. So if India extends the tariff and we lose the Indian marketplace, we will see the pea price fall further, because China is buying them for feed. So it's not a good news thing, but it's not a bad news thing either. On the peas, competing origins has become a bit of a challenge. Over my 30 years, I've heard this a few times. I hate you, you're a crook, I am never dealing with you again. Right? Actually, I think I've heard it from some of you in this room. Until I bid $11 for durum. I like you, I'll sell you a few hundred tons. Okay? Not many people like Russia right now. Right? They do not like what they're doing, they go against their morals, beliefs, do whatever they will, until they sell a cheaper product. And China right now, they're okay with Russia, so they will buy them. And we're looking at a 3.8 million ton Russian pea crop. As much as China may or may not like Russia, when they offer them peas $1 a bushel cheaper than what Canada will, they like Russia. Okay, so that has been a bit of an issue for us now going into China, because now we're actually going to compete against some Black Sea and Russian peas. So it does become a bit of a challenge for us. Ask me if I care about the South American pea crop. That's one vessel. Oh, I think I moved to lentils. I told Blair this is going to be an interesting presentation because I was listening to some things, I was switching some slides around, so we'll see what pops up on the next couple of them. This has been, lentils are another interesting one. It's been a very solid year for us. Like, we got up to 35 cents on lentils. I think earlier in the year we might have topped off a little higher, Andy, than 35 real early in the year.
Yep.
And then it fell back, and now we're back to that 34 and a half for reds, right? Now, a lot of that's being supported by a Canadian dollar that's weaker, so that's been a good thing. The majority of the exports going into Turkey and India. Turkey actually is going to be an interesting one coming up, just because most of the Turkish lentils make its way into Syria as well. So depending what happens in that neck of the world, we could see Turkey coming in to buy something. But India will maybe buy some, maybe not. It all depends what happens when they wake up in the morning. They will buy some stuff. But when we look at where these peas are actually going, it is India and Turkey. There is other lentils that are going around. There is no doubt in my mind that happens. But for the bulk of our product, we need the major players to continue to buy. And right now it is India and Turkey. Hopefully we see Turkey come back in and buy some stuff for some food aid. Maybe support what's happening in that Syria marketplace, so those geopolitical issues will again raise their head. Australia is going to produce 1.3 million tons of red lentils this year. That number is off. That number last year was about 1.7. So they did have a weaker crop. The challenge is with that one, it is 1.3 million tons of new supply that's coming to the market. So they have producers who are dumping lentils, but they are going to start tightening their price. And right now, where we're at, where Australia's selling, we're just about at par. Okay? The Australian dollar has also weakened against the US dollar, so we're in the same boat from a currency perspective. But in the end, that's who we're competing against. I'll clarify that. That's who you're competing with to a degree. The other individuals that you are really competing with on a pulse market, and actually for most of your commodities, is the guy in Tabor, the guy in Bow Island, the guy in Moose Jaw, Swift Current, Weyburn. Because product is being sold every day. Every day. So when you say, and we'll talk a little bit more on that on durum, actually I'll leave it. I can't show all my surprises this year. Products are similar. They do have 1.3 million tons, but the price is holding right now, so it's a good thing. Turkey comes in, I think lentil price could be sustained. So, it was, Greg said, you know, what are guys going to grow? This is what they're doing in Russia now. Again, they are shifting even some of their growing. They are growing what makes them more money. And right now, the cheapest priced wheat in the world is Russia. So if they're selling the cheapest priced wheat in the world, they're also buying the cheapest priced wheat in the world. So the Russian producer is moving to more profitable product. They are moving to peas and lentils and durum, right? Russia's gonna export about 700,000 tons of durum this year. But they're growing lentils and peas now. They are switching out of just traditional wheat. They can sell $6 peas or $4 wheat. That is not the number, trust me. Any questions so far on pulses? Boy, I love that Greg put me last before or right after lunch. Okay, we'll get into oilseed. Global oilseed production, global canola/rapeseed is actually down. So we lost 5 million tons of canola production this year. Okay?
How so?
Good question. Glad you asked. We lost it from Canada lost a little bit. Canada lost about 700,000 tons. The big change though is the European Union. The European Union lost just over 3 million tons. Okay? So, we are in a bit of a predicament because China ran into some issues with Canada, and again, what they said was this: we are going to investigate Canada for anti-dumping on canola. That's a broad brush statement. They didn't actually put an anti-dumping tariff on. They didn't put a tariff on. All they said is we're going to investigate. All the canola that was on the books for December and January was shipped in November and in that first week of December because everybody wanted to get it out. They actually didn't enforce a law yet or enforce a tariff. They just put out the threat. Is anybody selling China canola today for Jan, Feb, March? If they are, it ain't us. Because there is a risk. The last time this happened, we had 3 vessels on the water. So, the way this story goes is this way. You have 2 vessels heading over to China. And China says, we are putting a 100% tariff on Canadian canola. So as a company, if you don't have that into your contract on something with tariffs, you now own 2 vessels of canola on the water without a home. So you phone the United Arab Emirates and you say, would you guys like to buy some Canadian canola? And they go, absolutely. When do you want to deliver it? And you go, 3 days from now. And they go, okay. And they smile, and their bid is not better than their last one. So with the Chinese, we are going to lose about 2 million tons of Canadian exports this year. Our home is these guys, EU. They are the largest consumer of canola/rapeseed in the world. They need about 21 million tons. Okay? So when they only produce 17, we have potential to export there. On one condition. You have to be sustainable. It has to be sourced from a sustainable product. Now, it's become a very key word in our industry. It's not going away. And really what it means is this. You are protecting Mother Earth. When I sit in my desk and somebody tells me that about a producer that they need to protect the land base, my initial reaction is this. No shit. Right? This is your livelihood. You are protecting it. It is not like 30 years ago where you filled up your sprayer by the dugout in a metal pail, and when the pail was empty, you threw the pail in the bush. Actually, I don't even know if there's been a tree grown in Southern Alberta since 2008. The 2 big rules around sustainability are this. One, that you haven't ripped up land. You haven't cleared natural grassland or natural trees and over 3 acres. I'm pretty sure we could drive around for a few hours and not find 3 acres of natural grassland natural trees in this area. But that's it. So you're not disturbing the land base. So the land base is the big thing for sustainability. The second one is that you're storing your chemicals in a safe and reasonable place. You are not storing it in your garden on the ground or on a bare floor. It's in a concrete floored shed. Those are the two major reasons for sustainable. And when we phone out, and it's not just us, it's the industry, when we phone out and say, do you want to be a part of the sustainability program? What's the answer we get back? That's right, quiet. We don't hear anything back. And the reality is, it's okay. It's not a premium marketplace, it isn't. But if we don't find a home for our Canadian canola in places where we can access it, we are going to challenge, because when China comes out of the marketplace, or Japan comes out of the marketplace, or Mexico, where's your next home for this product? And it is these guys. Our biggest export years were here when they produced 17 million tons. When they produced 21, guess how many tons we exported to them? Nothing. So we need that European Union, we need to be sustainable. If a sustainable if a company comes to us and says, I will buy 400,000 tons of canola from you for the European Union, and we don't have enough sustainable growers, we just don't sell it. Because if we don't think that there's enough sustainable canola being sold, then we just don't do it.
Do you have to segregate that?
No.
Okay.
All we have to do is show that there's enough canola grown from a sustainable resource that it can be sold. So that's what's happening. Now, in 2 years, when the domestic crush gets built up, we're in better shape. But right now, we are highly dependent on people buying Canadian product. So when China gets out, we just lost 2 million tons. We have to find a home for it. And that's where our ending stocks are. Our ending stocks this year are going to run about 6 million tons. Now, this is where I get called a liar, in a polite way. The reality is you are going to hear numbers anywhere from 2 million ton carryout to a 6 million ton carryout. For us who have been reporting at a 6 million ton carryout, yeah, we bottom out at 2, run around 3.5, 4. The reality is the 6 million ton is just the biggest number we've seen. That is the bearish outlook on it. If you are StatsCan and they are showing now a 1.4 million ton number, I don't quite understand how, because their number hasn't been that low before, and that's taking into account our 14 million ton production year when we had the drought. So I'm not quite sure how we lost that carryout when our production number was better than the drought, and we actually lost homes for our Canadian canola, so I'm not quite sure how that plays out.
So you're not giving that a lot of weight?
I don't give it any weight. Call a spade a spade. It doesn't make sense. You can't have the second worst production number in the past 10 years, this last year, across Western Canada. Now, StatsCan used to phone our farm when I was on the farm. Hey, how many acres of canola did you grow? And I would joyfully answer, 4,000. Our farm was 1,500 acres. Like, I believe the data that is involved in the industry now is very complex. I was on a call with our Rotterdam office. We work with numbers, we work with Canadian Grain Commission, we work with insurance companies, we work with provinces, we get vegetative index maps and all these things. And when I went through the call with our data analyst in Rotterdam, I said, so really what we're telling you is just helps substantiate what you already know. Okay, I'm gonna say it anyways. The plane that flies overseas or over our heads is not giving chemtrails. But what it is doing is they are doing analysis from radar and sonar and all that other fun stuff. So everything's collecting data. It is not somebody who is 14 years old on the farm answering that I grew 4,000 acres of canola. So do I put stock in their number? No. We're gonna edit that out, right?
Yeah.
I've been involved in the industry a long time. I don't know if I've seen a chart this ugly. Anybody know what that chart is? That's canola futures from November 9th to November 29th. $91 a ton. Falling faster than anybody could catch it. If you are a buyer of canola and you see this, you stand in there and say, yeah, I'll buy some, or do you just wait? So there was nobody to come in there and buy the future side of the equation. They were just sitting there watching. $91 a ton. When those things happen, there is not a whole lot you can do depending on how you contracted your grain. But that was an ugly 2 weeks. Now, we've seen this recover a bit. It's kind of funny, and you guys have seen me. When the market was doing that, what did everybody think?
To the moon.
It's going right here. And when the market was doing this, what did everybody think? It's coming back. Not a word of lie. This happened, fell $91 a ton. It came back 12. One of my first phone calls was, told you it was coming back. I'm going, it came back 12. We are under pressure with that. Where we've seen our gains is because of soybean oil and palm oil. We are following the oilseed market, the veg oil market. Right now, from a canola supply standpoint, we have stocks available to sell. We just don't have people to sell it to. The funds right now are holding a record short in canola. They truly believe, the fund side of the equation, that there is more downside in this. But I think we found some support at that 580 number on the futures. Go through it quick so it's not that painful.
You're gonna crack more spikes there.
What's that?
No more spikes.
Oh, there's always smiles. The other thing too is with the canola, there are products right now that you can get into contracting, and we have one of them with Corteva this year for Clearfield canola. There's about a $2 a bushel premium on Clearfield canola on the program right now. And there is, I'll get to the last part, when you see a chart, it all depends what you do and when you do it on contracting. Not doing anything is a decision. I'm not sure if it's a good decision. Unless it's the last load in your bin. If you sold us, we're going to talk about durum right now, so we'll stay on durum. Those are the exports by destination. Algeria, Morocco are the biggest. Turkey just offered 100,000 tons of durum last week to Algeria, Morocco, and Turkey pulled their offer. Not Algeria, Morocco. Turkey, the guy who was selling it, pulled their offer on 100,000 tons of durum. The reason why they pulled it is because the Algerian and Moroccan bids were too low. Turkey, who was beating us by 50 bucks a ton US, couldn't sell Morocco and Algeria because their bid was too cheap. So this is the way the durum market is looking right now. There's about 8 million tons of global seaborne trade every year. It doesn't change. Anybody remember the news that China bought Canadian durum for the first time last year? Anybody remember that news? Big news. China bought Canadian durum. First time ever. Everybody was just partying in the streets. Awesome. We found a new home for Canadian durum. Anybody want to guess how many tons China bought? 200. It was 10 containers, and it was through us. They were trying to test it out. But China bought durum was the article. That was the headline. There's about 8 million tons. So, how that 8 million tons is going to get covered? 1.2 million tons is going to come out of Turkey this year. That number could jump up as high as 1.7. We're going to put in 1.2 right now. There's going to be 0 exports from Mexico this year. which is a good thing. Normally, those guys are trading about 700,000 to 1 million tons. They're not gonna trade anything this year on durum.
Why is that, Terence? They got irrigation. don't
Yeah, but they had the same problems we did. Their irrigation got shut off too.
they?
Found that out 2 weeks ago. Cause that was my first question too. But yeah, they shut off their irrigation. They put their water resource to something else. So Russia and Kazakhstan are gonna export about 500,000 tons. About 200,000 tons are gonna come out of Australia. Again, a few boats, not a big deal. 600,000 tons are gonna come out of the EU, and the US is gonna export 500,000 tons, which leaves 5 million tons for Canada to execute. We had a 1 million ton carryout last year. We had 6 million tons of production. Call it, it's about 5.8, I think, roughly, but I'm gonna call it 6 million just because it's easier for my head. So we're gonna have about 7 million tons available against a 5 million ton production. So, with that, we also know, because of the receipts, that about 3.2 has been receipted already of durum. So 3.2 against 5 leaves us with about 1.8 left to buy. That's it. And I know 1.8 million tons sounds like a lot, but 2 weeks ago, as a company, we bought 100,000 tons of durum in 1 week. Viterra owns about, I'm gonna safely say 25% of the durum market share. Okay? So, again, we bought 100,000 tons, means another 400,000 tons came to market. So we're gonna say about 500,000 tons came to market in 1 week. 3 weeks, that 1.8 million tons can be done. That's it. So, the numbers that are available in the market today, I got asked probably a month ago saying, what do you think of the number? I'm going, the number is good. This number here doesn't reflect what is being paid in the market today. Everybody right now is getting their shorts covered off. That's it. And if we don't buy it in Brooks, we'll buy it in Weyburn. And when I say we, I mean the industry. They will move it around because right now we can't sell durum. Algeria and Morocco just passed on their last tender. Now, what did Algeria buy on their last tender? 100,000 tons of soft wheat. So, again, they will buy the cheapest product to make their food sources last. And that's what they did. They bought 100,000 tons of soft wheat, and surprise, surprise, it's gonna get blended into their durum. Will their couscous taste a little bit funny? Maybe. But in the end, their people are gonna be fed, and they're gonna be fed cheaper.
In their bellies.
I love eating steak. I think I used this one even last year. I love eating steak. I could eat steak every day. A steak in the butcher shop in Lethbridge now is $30. 30 stinking dollars. I love steak, but I quit eating it. Now I'm going to pork chops. Pork chops are $20. Now I eat a chicken. Right? So people will find the cheapest source of food when their budget doesn't allow them to continue to eat steak. And durum's a prime example of that. They are buying white wheat to blend in. Now, this is a prime example, this one in canola, because our reps will phone out and they'll say, I got a deal for you. I am bidding $9.15 for durum delivered Grassy Lake and Lethbridge. And the guy goes, you know what? I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna keep it in my bin. I know. 1.2 million tons of carryout. I know there's gonna be product left in a bin. And I will never say if it is a good or a bad decision for you to keep your product in your bin. I'm not the one signing the check for your chemical bill or anything. That is a decision that you're making. At 1.2 million ton carryout, it's a bearish number. That's just the reality. producers have become very aware of our messaging and things like that. I got a secret for you. We're aware of your messaging too. Andy phones out, says, hey, I got a deal on durum, $9.15. And the response back is, let me check my bin. We know what that's lingo for. What that's lingo for is, I'm gonna phone every other competitor and see where they're at. You know it's in your bin and you're price checking it, which is fine. A competitive marketplace is a good marketplace. My only word of caution is careful that it's not transactional. Because I actually like transactional. Transactional is, I quote you a price, you sell it to me. If I'm not the best price, you don't sell it to me. Perfect, I'm okay with that. But then something goes wrong in the equation, where you have a load of tough or a load of heated or something goes wrong. And you go, you can help me out, right? No, actually we're transactional. Right? So that would be my thing with price checking. I think it's a good thing to price check. Just careful it doesn't become transactional. $9 durum with a 1.2 million ton carryout is a good value. It should not be here today. And I'm all for paying it because it still makes sense. Right? Our biggest day of phone calls is when the market drops to 8.50 and the guy goes, hey, can I still get 9?
Yeah.
But a 1.2 million ton carryout, guys, durum is being sold every day, wheat's being sold every day, canola's being sold every day. My big thing when we get into it later is, especially when you're near the end of a crop year, my question just becomes, are you on the last boat out for old crop, or are you on the first new crop boat? If you want me to tell you that durum is going back to 14 bucks a bushel or canola is going back to 16, I will tell you that today. Deal. I will tell you that right now. I am not going to tell you how long you have to hold it for. Because there will come a time. Right now, unfortunately, we're in a position where I always feel I should stand by an exit when I say this. It's your fault. When I was on the farm, when you got 30 bushel an acre canola, that was a bumper crop. When you got 25 bushel an acre wheat, that was a bumper crop. If you get 25 bushel an acre wheat now, should I rip it up? Is kind of the thought. So you're producing more, which is a good thing. Regardless of the commodity, especially with what we're going through today on the commodity pricing, it is not the commodity prices that are going to make you the money. Grow 3 bushels an acre more. If the price of durum goes up 25 cents a bushel, and now you yielded 40 bushels an acre, that is $10 an acre gross revenue. If you yield 3 bushels an acre more, that is $27 an acre gross revenue. It is yield that is going to make you money last year and this year, not price. The biggest question you have to ask yourself with pricing this year, what's the greater probability? Do I have a chance to get to 950 durum, or do I have a better chance at 850 durum? On canola, do I have a better chance at 14, or do I have a better chance at 12? Where's the bigger probability? Because if you sell some of your product today, you want the product price to go up tomorrow because it's not the last load in your bin. I put this in ugly colors so you actually can't see the numbers. We are the highest priced wheat in the world. Canada hard wheat was being offered last week at 270 bucks a ton US out of Vancouver. The other wheat was Australia and US, all in that same ballpark. And if you look here, Argentine wheat was 226 and Russian wheat was 230. 40 bucks a ton US cheaper than Canadian wheat.
The same protein?
Nope. Russia was offering 12.5. We're selling 13.5 when we tried to sell 14, but they won't pay it. Average protein across Western Canada this year was 13.8. So what the importing countries do is they say this: I will buy 200,000 tons, one red 13.0. And we go, no, we will sell you 200,000 tons of one red 13.5. And they go, no, we don't want 13.5, we want 13. Because they know they're gonna get 13.5 anyways, we can't blend it down. So what they do is they just get rid of the protein print. And the past 2 years, our protein's been 13.7 and 13.8 out of Western Canada. We've actually had trucks rejected because they were too high a protein in our end users. You wanna see somebody upset? Tell them they got a truck rejected because their protein was too high. But what happens here is this. So Russia goes out and sells it, and it's not that we're gonna sell into Egypt. We are not gonna sell into Egypt. But it sets a price expectation, it sets a bar. So everybody else's global values just start to come off a little bit. And the impact to carryout. And it's audience participation time. Okay, I am Bangladesh. Okay, my price today for wheat into Brooks is, I'm gonna use $8 a bushel. Okay? Who's selling me wheat today at $8? That's what I thought. Who wants more for their wheat? Yeah, everybody's putting up their hand. Okay, perfect. Okay, now it's time for audience participation. Bangladesh comes in and they want to buy 400,000 tons of wheat, which will help drop our carryout number. If I sell it, it will help. But Bangladesh says, I will not pay you your value. You have to drop your price by $10 a ton US to sell me the 400,000 tons. Okay, you are now the merchant. Do you sell the 400,000 tons today? I have to drop my price by 40 cents a bushel. Do you sell the 400,000 tons?
Yes, you're instead of making $20 a ton on the farmers, you make 10.
I would kill for $20 a ton. Do you sell the 400,000 ton? Because you don't own it. Because I have to drop my price by 40 cents. So you pass on the business. Everybody in favor of passing? Okay, perfect. Australia sells it. That 400,000 tons is gone. We don't get an option again anymore. So it becomes a real balancing act from a merchandising perspective. How do we get rid of our carryouts and sell this stuff? Margins are tight across the board. Period. For you, for us, for everybody. There's a little less care from that side of the table and it's us, but that's fine. I got big shoulders, I'll make Andy drive, I'll cry, it's okay, don't worry. But that's the predicament we're in right now. Product is being offered, supply is available globally, that it can be sold. So if we don't drop our price to sell it, and maybe it is at a reduced margin, but that's also saying that I'm gonna buy it 40 cents a bushel at the same price. All of a sudden now I can buy 400,000 tons of wheat. Maybe it might be zero. And again, that's not your issue, that's mine. But that does become a real challenge for us right now. Now, here's the thing, if Bangladesh came to the market today and said, I'll buy 400,000 tons, we would be a seller. But there is nobody coming to buy 400,000 tons of product right now, whether it's durum or wheat. It's just not happening, so we can't sell anything. So you'll see it on durum, where the price kind of crept up and now it's fallen off. Same thing with wheat. Price crept up, fell back. I think at Brooks at a low here 3 weeks ago, we were 735-ish. And then it crept back up. So it is finding seeing if we can find some demand. I'll quickly go over barley and just what's happening with corn. It's actually been another nice surprise story. Feed barley prices in southern Alberta are approaching $6 a bushel. The barley carryout does not support a $6 a bushel bid. But what happened is this. We had a record carryout of barley last year, and we had corn coming in, so the end user said, we like this scenario, we're not buying. And they didn't, they bought hand to mouth. So companies weren't bringing in corn wasn't coming into Canada, but neither was barley. Barley was not being sold. So now the end users are going, I need to get some barley bought, and that's why these values have jumped, because they are trying to get coverage. They are buying hand to mouth. They are not going to buy $6 March, $6 April barley. They're buying $6 Dec Jan barley. Because that's what's happened with corn. The blue line is US corn coming in. The green line is domestic corn coming in. So we have dropped our imports on corn to just over 2 million tons this year. Now, the $6 feed barley bid, you will notice that any one of those lots are lots that didn't have corn booked. There are some lots in southern Alberta now who have gone strictly to corn. They're not the ones bidding $6 for feed barley today. And there is some Canadian corn making its way in. It was actually cheaper for us to bring corn out of Iowa than it was out of southern Manitoba. USDA report came out today. USDA cut their carryout on corn by 200 million bushels this year. For this year, they cut it. 200 million, they dropped their carryout by 5 million metric tons. Just think, our entire durum crop, they just cut that out of their corn carryout. So when they cut 5 million tons out of their USDA report, what do you think happened to the futures market today? Yeah, it should have went crazy. It should have jumped 20 cents. Anybody want to guess what it actually did? It was up 4 cents. They cut 4 million tons out of their 5 million tons out of their carryout, and the market moved 4 cents. There is supply available. They cut the global carryout by 7 million tons. And corn is king. They cut global carryout by 7 million tons. The global carryout on corn is still 257 million tons. Carryout. So supply is ample. Demand is limited, and prices are having a hard time. I'm not even going to go into our contracting options. I think there's a lot that can be discussed around this. So I actually created this. This is the way traditional grain marketing works for you guys. You have product available, you need space and movement, you sell. Need cash, sell. No cash requirement, no space or movement required. I'm gonna bin on the product, just wait. I was right, market moved in the right direction, sell. I was wrong, keep it in the bin. That's really what the discussions look like. This is what it looks like now. Yeah, there's a few more boxes. And it just goes back to determining what your bias is and what's the right contract for you. I'm not going to tell you if you should sell your durum or wheat or canola or anything today. I'll just show you what contract options can work for you. I need space and movement. Do I have a bearish outlook? Do I have a neutral outlook? Do I have a bullish outlook? I need cash. Bearish outlook, bullish outlook. No cash requirements, no space requirements, bearish, bullish, neutral. And then now I go through the different contracting options that are available to me. Space and cash determine a lot of your decision making. So again, if you are bearish, there still are options for you to take advantage of what's happening in a bearish marketplace. Brand new contract, been on with us for 2 months, actually getting pretty good uptake. And all it is you're assigning a basis contract and then entering into a daily plus target. Right now, this is the contract guys have been using for canola. And here's what it does. You sign up your basis contract, and as long as the futures stay within your accumulation level and a barrier, you receive the accumulation level. So this is a calculated number, okay? So when I did this last week, the price in Swift Current was $12.35. If you enter into this contract, it picks up about a 70-cent a bushel premium in the market. Because we are quoting you an accumulation level. So as long as the futures stay above the barrier and below the accumulation level, you get that accumulation level. We're using backroom through options, futures, and a risk profile to determine that accumulation level. That contract is available in canola and it's for a minimum of 20 tons. That's it, 20 tons, try in the contract. If it falls through the barrier, if it falls through in this period here, you get your accumulation level up until the day it falls out, and then you have a balance. So every day we're pricing something for you. It's a solid contract in a sideways market, especially in canola because of the volatility. On wheat, the premium isn't that big right now. The premium on wheat is only 20 cents. Well, that can happen by Wednesday. But on this, there might not be that option. So it's a pretty good contract. I would ask you to talk to your cars about it and say you listened to an awesome individual speaking and he presented this. And when it goes, when you tell them that, they're gonna say, who'd you talk to? And they're gonna know really who'd you talk to. Okay, but it's a new contract that we've brought out to just go through different scenarios on what works for your farm. It's a multitude of choices. That's it, that's all. How's that for time, Greg?
It's good. Let's give Terence a round of applause. Ready for some questions?
Yep, absolutely. I'm not gonna answer.
Okay, I think we're gonna nickname you Sustainable Terence.
I hope I'm sustainable.
And if I learned anything, it's that all the certified durum seeds going in the pit. No one should be growing durum. we're gonna dump her all.
$6 wheat too.
Got a $6 wheat. Okay. Well, I always appreciate getting the viewpoint of it because it puts it in perspective, right? Because otherwise we kind of get bogged down in our own farms and day to day and okay, what's the global picture? What are these guys seeing? How can we adjust plans or make plans for that? So I really appreciate that. Questions for Terence? You must have some good questions.
Yep.
Matt?
Canola have any chance of going sub 20 million acres in the prairie or in Canada this year?
You want to repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, does canola have a chance to go sub 20 million acres? We get asked the question every year. What's gonna happen with canola acres? What's gonna happen with wheat acres? I don't know if it can go sub 20, and strictly from the form of rotation. Guys aren't kicking everything out of their rotation to grow canola or vice versa. So I think we're gonna see, you know, probably a 2% change, but I don't see it going down 10. It just doesn't work in the rotation.
What else are you gonna grow that's more profitable? That's the problem, right?
Well, right now, honestly, pulses have been good, and you're still making money with canola, it's just not as much as you did. So, that's the other problem with it right now, like, canola I'm gonna use, I'll use 40 bushels an acre. I'm gonna use it just for a number, and 13 bucks a bushel is 520 bucks an acre gross revenue. And cost of input on canola is about 370, roughly, for an input cost, so you're still 150 bucks an acre. Whereas wheat, I'll use 60 at 9 is 540, and 350 to put in wheat, so you're 200 bucks an acre, so it's about 30 bucks an acre difference, that's it. So you're not switching your rotation out of canola to grow wheat.
I got a question for you. So what about like Southern Alberta? We have a freight advantage for feed. what's your thought on growing a GP red or a soft wheat to target that feed market rather than a durum or a spring wheat? What's your view there?
I like bushels. Today's a prime example. So into Indus, we're paying 8 1/4 for spring wheat. Okay, and I'm going to use 60 bushels an acre at 8 1/4. What is that, 560? That's about $580 an acre gross, roughly. And we're paying $8 for CPS red. So if you can pick up 15 bushels an acre on CPS red, you're making more money with a high yielding wheat. The challenge is right now, the developments that have happened in spring wheat don't have it at that big of a yield disadvantage to the poor quality wheats. And the challenge with the poor quality wheats is you are basing it on a domestic play then. Because you do not want to be competing with the US winter wheat crop or the Russian black seed crop. So it has to be a domestic play from a pricing perspective. But grow more.
Is the protein market, how's the protein market looking? Bleak or
Bleak.
there's nothing?
No, because right now, if somebody comes into Canada to buy wheat and they buy it as a 13.5 protein wheat, they know that we are going to over apply a sale to them. They know that. Because everything that's being grown right now, the average across Western Canada is 13.8. So chances are pretty good that they're gonna get their 13.5 plus, and they're not paying for the plus. Because they're gonna get it anyways. Yeah.
If you were a red lentil and green lentil grower, and you're sitting at 70% sold on both, you use Cargill market sense, and that's kind of the recommendation right now, but would you get rid of everything? If you have 35-cent reds right now and 60 for greens, would you pull the trigger on everything and just be done with it, or what would you do?
On greens, I'm probably smiling, but on reds, at 35 cents, my upside is probably limited. Like you, at 35 with the dollar the way it is, it's a decent value. On greens, you have to be careful with greens because it is a finite demand, right? You're competing against a different product than you are with reds. So I'd be a little more cautious on I'd probably be a little more sold on my greens at the values that are available today, based on what I'm competing against.
So I agree with you, and like, I follow Green Shark as well too, and these guys are holding out for something more, or what's out there if we want to. I think
So-
these are the only crops that we're fairly profitable on, right? I'd rather protect profit, would you not?
When I first got into this, an old guy once told me, he says, you never go broke locking in a profit. Now, okay. There are a lot of third-party advisors who will tell you to hold or to sell or whatever. It's quite interesting. I get the same kind of emails, and it's quite funny because I had an email 3 months ago saying you should be 70% sold on your durum. Same grain marketer, 3 months later goes, you should be 50% sold on your durum. And I went, how does that work? So, the one thing that I will say is, the information I give you today, I'm okay if you sell or you don't. It is what it is. It is about locking in your profit and being disciplined in your marketing ideas, right? Because telling you to hold product today, what's my skin in the game? I have no skin in the game. I just wrote a letter.
You're gonna get it eventually, and it costs me 17 cents a bushel per month to store it, right? And you factor in interest and different things like that.
I don't even know if I'm gonna get it.
Well, somebody's going to, right?
Yeah, somebody's going to. I will never tell you if it's a good thing to sell or not. Because the second I do, the second I do, and it goes the other way, the first phone call you make is to me, saying, you said sell. And everything I've told you today, it doesn't paint a glowing picture. It doesn't. Durum at 9.15 is a solid value. Could it go to 9 1/4? I hope so, because you probably have product left in your bin. All I'm saying is with the numbers that are available today, and when I look at the data, it shows me that durum shouldn't be over 9. It shouldn't. It tells me the feed barley shouldn't be at 6. Wheat at 8? I think wheat at 8, if you book basis, I think there's maybe some upside in futures. But I'm not the one who's paying your bill. I'm not the one who told you anything along. I'm just saying what's happening in the marketplace. If I'm right, then you can phone me and say, I'm glad I listened to you.
Was there anyone else? Okay.
So if we end the Ukraine war this winter or whatever, does that change anything?
That's done. That war premium, when Russia sent the first missiles into there, everything just ran. And we had that war premium and drought premium in the marketplace for about a year, and then it worked its way out. And we've lost the war premium and that's gone. So if they resolve it, nothing changes.
Doesn't change.
No, that premium's gone. I want to say about 6 months ago, there was a Ukrainian vessel hitting the Black Sea. Did anybody see any impact on the market? Nothing. It was already priced in.
Well, join me again in thanking Terence. If you do sell some, if you do talk to a Viterra rep and do some business, just say you saw Terence at our event, please. Thank you. And then he'll come back next year and we'll play a recording of what he said because it'll be the same thing. 2 years in a row.